Okay, well, I gotta stop, take a breather. All right, so I'm out today looking at a property. It's mid-February now. It's a great time of the year to be out, and I am walking up some steep terrains. You can see the ridge behind me is steep, and I am breathing heavy. But the only way you get a chance to really look at this property is get out here, and I'm assessing it for a couple things. Access, number one, buildability, and huntability. So I'm going to take you around this property. I'll show you a few things as we go. Let's go. Okay, first thing about this property. So we're set back off the road a little bit, and we're really at the confluence of a couple big ridges. You can see one there. A lot of good timber and a long way back in here. So my first thought is that access is really an issue in here, and that's what I'm evaluating. So if a guy wanted to come in here, build a cabin, build a house, he's gonna have to bring electric in. We're about a quarter of a mile off the road where we're at on an easement that gets us to the corner of the property. But getting electric back in here is not gonna be easy. It's gonna be expensive. So at this point, actually on this corner of the property where the seller thought a guy could build a house, it's a great building site, there's going to be quite a bit of expenses to do that, and I don't think it's optimal. But we're going to get up on top of this ridge. We're going to walk the timber. I'm going to assess this for some timber value. I'll make some comments about that. And there is a potential building site on the other side I'm going to go take a look at, and I'll show you that when we get there. Well, I walked up the edge of this property. I'm on a little hog's back that's running to the top. It's a secondary ridge running to the primary ridge here. In this area down here, it's hard to tell by the video, but this area right down here is the area where the seller thinks that you could build a house. There's an easement that comes in, and it comes to a corner of the property right there. Then the property line runs right up here where I'm at, and we got 20 acres going this way behind us. This could be a potential spot to build, but the difficult thing is the access getting up here, because you can tell I'm breathing really heavy, and it's a steep incline. I'm going to say this is probably 25-degree incline, maybe steeper. And taking a bulldozer up this could be possible, but access is not optimal. So that's something you really got to look at. Yes, you could build in here, but when you overpay for a property because a guy could build in here, that's where you can get in trouble as an investor. And that's kind of where my mind is going. So I'm almost at the top of this ridge. I'm going to walk the ridge, looking at the timber next, and I'm going to drop down the other side where there is a building site, where there's an old farmhouse, and that's what I'm really interested in seeing. So we're getting there. Well, I'm almost at the top of this this ridge here, and I came up on some areas that got a bunch of rubs. There's one there, there's an old one there, there's an old one there, and right in front of me is a newer one. So just as you would expect, you can see the hog's back right at the top. That's the top. And then the military crest, and these bucks are moving along here, and they're stopping as they go, and they are rubbing. And this year, you can see the material down here all rubbed up. So this area where I'm at is known for some pretty big bucks, and this is the kind of sign you like to see. And I can see another one here. I see another one. So this is definitely a route here. Probably 12 rubs or more, and they're definitely moving along here. So just off the military crest, but it's real steep to get here, I tell you. All right, let's keep looking. A lot of times when I'm talking to owners about these properties, they talk about stands that are on the property that they feel bring a lot of value. And there's things like this. There's an old trailer up here, and I'm talking quiet because I don't think anybody's in it, but he's told me that there's some squatters that were on this property. And so when I'm looking at these things, I got to think, how am I going to get that out of there? That's an eyesore, seller doesn't like that, or buyer doesn't like that when I clean these properties up. Do these old stands bring any value? I mean, if you set it up on its side, it looks like it's not in bad shape, but it hasn't been used for a long time. Basically no value here, but bigger issue is getting that thing out of there, because if I sell it to you and I fix this up, I just want to make it look cleaner. So we're going to go check that out. I don't think it's occupied, but we're going to be careful going in there. Okay, well, as I get closer here, windows are knocked out, and it doesn't look like anybody who's been here for a long time, but I come in here and I like to, check this stuff out because I don't want to sneak up on some guy squatting up here cooking meth. You know what I mean? So the thing is about these, to get this out of here, it's probably a couple $1,000. The sellers will feel, you don't need to get it out of there. It's fine. It's been there for years. But to a buyer that maybe wants to have a cleaner property, they don't like this stuff. So you got to factor that in. You got to clean these places up a little bit. I always say, lipstick on the pig. And this is going to cost you to take this out of here. If you don't have a bulldozer, you're going to hire a guy, and a bulldozer is going to cost you probably $1,500 for a day. So that needs to go. Okay, well, I'm up on top of this property and I'm on a flat, and I can see this from the topo maps. And when I got here, I saw you got this kind of stuff, little popples, early growth, early successional maple, real easy to clear out. So this could be a food plot up top here, which again adds a little value to a property. It definitely has the saleability. The guys like to see that. And then when I get up here, I see a bed right there. That little depression's a bed, and then I see another one right over here. So the deer are definitely wanting to be here, but you could come up here and you could maybe clear out this, be a half a day work with a forestry mulch, or maybe a day total. And it's probably about $1,500 investment. So we got $1,500 to move the trailer, another $1,500 to open up this food plot, and then cost of planting, obviously. So a couple upgrades that I'm seeing right away. Okay, well, I'm at the edge of the property. This is another person's land, but when I came out here with the seller that I'm speaking with, he took me on a trail that came right through here, and we came on my pickup truck. It was really accessible, and he said that's legal, and I'm not sure what the whole story is, but I got this property right here that's on the edge of the property that I'm looking at. It looks like it was part of an old field. You can see how it's kind of open in the back, and this is early successional stuff. There's nothing bigger than this tree right here. Easy to clear out, and it was one time it was probably agricultural. But these are remote owners. They don't live here. There's something going on with an access, according to the seller I'm talking to. And the opportunity may be that you could take that guy's land, bundle it with this land, get a big piece together, and then you got something. That takes a little bit of work. But when you could find that kind of opportunity, you can a lot of times buy these at a lower price, because this one's kind of landlocked. So is this one. Access isn't great. But when you piece them together, then they become accessible. And if you can do that, you can make a deal for yourself. Okay, well, I'm up in the backside of this property, and I want to give you a perspective of the timber. So there's a lot of stuff that's like this. Those are nice saw logs. If you look at the bottom up to the top, there's 2 or 3 saw logs, but there's a seam in that one. So that one's not so valuable, but there's a lot of them through here. And you can see how you can see through this timber pretty far. That tells me it needs to be cut. I don't think this is in the managed forest law program. That'd be something you'd want to check. Might already be a management plan on here. But there's some timber value here. The challenge is, can you get somebody to do this size of a cut? That's the challenge, but definitely could use a cut. You can always tell that because you have an open understory that is canopied over during the summer. No sunlight's getting in here, not a lot of regeneration. So this could probably use a cut, and it'd be well advised to do it. Wintertime is tough on these deer, but this is a sign of the deer coming in here feeding. They're pulling this up. They're picking up the acorns underneath these big old oaks up here, and that's their hard mast and woody browse is their main diet. So that's what they're doing here. And as you see through here, there's not a lot of food on the ground for them, but that's a sign that the deer are in here feeding, and I'm seeing quite a bit of it. Here's a real predictable pattern. See how this knob is right here? It's a little flat spot. You can see on this side, you can see on this side, and these deer are bedding up here, and you can see a couple beds. There's one there, there's one there, there's one, there's some down in front of us, and they're sitting on this ridge right here. They can see every situation. They can see left and right, or right and left, off the tip, anything coming up from behind them, nothing sneaks up on them. The only thing that would make this better, you see how open it is. Maybe come in here and drop some of these trees, lay them on the ground, give them some back cover, and then these deer will bed up here, and it's a very predictable spot that you put them so that when you walk in, that's a good sized bed right there, probably a buck. When you walk in, you know where your deer are at. The challenge is, because it's so open in here, they're gonna see you walking in, so you got to figure that one out. That's part of the strategery of these properties. All right, we're coming into what was once an old homestead. Still has some of the buildings left over. You can just see this is not uncommon. Has a lot of old stuff in here. And sometimes those buildings are still usable. And this is something we might have to clean out, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. Okay, well, I'm sure at one point this was an old farmhouse, barnyard. There's probably a house right about there, I think, overlooking that field down below. And got a couple things, granary, old barn here, but there's a lot of stuff that's laying around here too that needs to be pulled out and cleaned up. That's going to cost some time and some money. Have a guy do it. Old trailer, there's an old car down there, a lot of stuff going on here, so it'll take a little work. But these kind of spots, if there's electricity and there's a well and there's a septic, they're probably old. Electricity maybe still work. I'll look around, see if I find that. The well and septic are probably going to be replaced. So will it perk? Can you get electric here if it's not here? How much is a well? These are all upgrade things that you're going to pay for, and you don't want to pay for it on the front end. You know you're going to pay for it on the back end if you do. So those are some considerations, but we're going to look around these buildings, see what they look like. Okay, old dog kennel here. I don't see any evidence of people around here. But I was told there was some squatters that were living here. But you know, these are kind of cool. People like these, a little paint on it. Maybe clean it up. Might still be worth something to somebody. Maybe a chicken coop. Okay, well, you can see the barn kind of collapsed on that side right there. It kind of bends down. So there's not a lot of value in this other than some sentimental value. I mean, some people like to see these old buildings, but they add zero to the value. Even though they have some usability, they're probably more of a liability because you got to tear them down. So that's why I evaluate, like, what's it going to take that down? Or if I leave it there, is it usable? Maybe slap some paint on it, and somebody might have a couple more years out of that. So just some things that I think about when I'm looking at it. Okay, well, this is a positive attribute of this property. So there's a 2-track trail that comes in. That's not part of the property, but we're negotiating access at this point. But then you got this. It's about a 5-acre field. It goes up to the wood line over there to those brown trees. Those are early growth oak. And so all this right here was probably at one point agricultural field. But what's really interesting when I looked at this, sorry, my lips are getting numb. When I looked at it from the aerials, I could see that this was here. And this type of stuff is fun to work with. People like to build a food plot, or maybe if you want to make a homestead, this could be some cattle here. I don't know how many cows, maybe 1 or 2, maybe a pair per acre. I don't know what you could get out here, but that's beneficial. So you got the timber, you got a little open ground, you got your home site. Just got to figure out if there's utilities here and access, but those are key. But this is pretty cool. Okay, so summary about this property. I don't see evidence of electricity at this site. Definitely have to find that out. If not, it's going to cost a lot to bring it in. There's definitely a cool factor. You got timber all the way around you. You're really secluded. That's going to appeal to a lot of people, but you know, the cost of that is rather expensive to get back in here, get a driveway, because the access is from the top is not good. The access from the driveway that gets to this old farm is not accessible at this point. You'd have to figure that out. And there's quite a bit of cleanup. There's an old trailer, a vehicle, a trailer up top, a couple old sheds. I see a trailer. I just see a lot of stuff here. It's going to cost thousands to clean out. So these are all things that I look at when I look at this. This area typically sells in that, I don't know, $5,000 an acre range, give or take. It could be as high as $7,000. I've seen it as low as $2,000. There's a range, and I'd say the sweet spot's at $5,000-ish, somewhere in there. So got to buy it right. I hope you guys enjoyed this tour. I'll let you know if this comes to market. I'm Neil Hogger, and I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate. I'm somewhere on a covert property tour. Thanks for watching.